Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of Finance and Corporate Services Committee. I will begin, as usual, asking if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Not seeing any. We will move on to the consent items. Councillor Chapman on the consent items. Oh, sorry, you queued out here. 1 second. Can you queue back in? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to pull 3.1 and 3.2.
3.1.2, okay. And actually, I had a comment on 3.1 as well. So I'll take that motion of taking those two items out of consent. Those in favor? And that carries. Councillor Chapman, do you want to begin with your question?
Okay, so I'll start with 3.1. The 5 Charles Street. So my first question has to do with, so the idea is 400 units, 80 will be affordable. What is meant by affordable here?
It would be CMHC's definition of affordable housing as they're applying for an affordable housing loan through CMHC.
Okay. And I had a question about a holding provision. Will there be a holding provision on this because of the water scarcity?
That would be something that planning would have to determine.
So we're not at that stage yet, or?
No, we're not at that stage yet.
Okay.
They haven't even come in for pre-submission at this point.
Okay. My other question has to do with the commercial businesses that are at 91 Queen Street, because the proposal will take away the parking away from those businesses, right? And I just wondered if they've been notified and what the response was.
They have not been notified yet, but yes, that is a public parking lot that's owned by the City of Kitchener, and they will be notified at least 6 months in advance of the lot closing, which probably won't happen for the next 1.5 to 2 years.
But if we were to pass this now, then it's pretty well a given that that parking will be taken away. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And in the report, it says that the current costs in the lot, it's an annual operating cost of $13,000. I just wondered what the revenue is that the city takes in that lot.
So that is the net figure.
That's
I don't have.
I'm sorry?
That is the net figure. So the revenue less the expenses results in a deficit of $11,000.
Oh, okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, on this, actually, just by way of comment, fellow members of council, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a long-serving city employee who will be retiring in coming weeks. And then, as I understand, this is likely the last time we'll see Mr. Bennett in the council chamber. He joined the City of Kitchener over 13 years ago. Brian came to the city following 27 years with TD Bank as a VP of Commercial Banking, having completed a term also as the chair at the KW Chamber of Commerce. It was rare to find someone of Brian's business background and local connections. During his time with the city, Brian built critical relationships with key business leaders and CEOs across Kitchener. He has always been seen as a trusted go-to at City Hall for any business that was experiencing challenges. At the same time, Brian was equally respected by his colleagues at City Hall. A natural problem solver, Brian built bridges, helping staff and developers find ways to move projects forward. But Brian's true passion is city building, more specifically partnership building that led to new community assets. Most notably, Brian played a critical role working with Andren Homes to see the full city center development completed right here next to City Hall. Other key projects Brian helped bring include the recent reimagination of the Boathouse, the redevelopment of the Legion and construction of 345 King, the final phase of the Huron Business Park, and the full build of the Innovation Arena. So it's only fitting on his final time in front of City Council, Brian is here on behalf of a partnership with St. Matthew's Church that he's helped to nurture for over 8 years. Mr. Bennett, on behalf of City Hall, thank you for your many years of dedication to our community and for the leadership role you've played with our business community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not to put you on the spot, but I did notice you turn your microphone off, and that's
First of all, thank you for your kind words. And it's been a real privilege to work with council and Team Kitchener to move our economic development agenda forward. And I'm going to miss everybody, so thank you very much.
Okay, well, we hope we see you around. Councillor Chapman, you had questions on another item as well? Oh, sorry. Mayor Banovich, go ahead.
Again. No, I just wanted to add my thanks to Mr. Bennett as well for his many years at the city. You know, as in my role, obviously, since 2014 as mayor, I've had an opportunity to work with economic development on various projects, some of which you mentioned, but also with Waterloo Region Economic Development Corporation and Brian in terms of our efforts to get new investment into the community. And so we've had the opportunity to travel with other mayors in various jurisdictions and tell them about all the great things that Kitchener and Waterloo Region has to offer. And you know, some of those came to fruition, and the relationships that Brian was able to build in that time, I know were highly regarded and respected by those folks. He certainly has worked well with a number of people to help them in their growth trajectories as well. With that being one of the key focuses of our local economic development department, and so I know he's got a big Rolodex, and I hear that he's figuring out how to transfer some of that over to our staff to help support them as they carry on. But whoever his successor will be will have big shoes to fill. So thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor Banovich. Sorry, and Councillor Chapman, you had questions on the other item?
Yeah, it's for 3.2. I don't know, is it the same people? It has to do with the cameras, the body cameras. Okay, so yeah, I had a couple questions. Will these cameras be used by all bylaw officer calls?
Ms. Fleckton?
Through the chair, our downtown safety ambassadors and our temporary staff will not have cameras. Our property standards and compliance officers will.
So are there particular calls that they would have them turned on, or would they always be turned on, or would it only be if it was a noise violation, or like other specific categories that would merit the?
Yeah. So any call that our officers are at will have the camera turned on. If they're in their line of duty, whether it's issuing parking tickets or interacting with people or part of an investigation, the camera will be turned on.
Okay. The other, I mean, this is a more general question. It said in the report that their CCTV cameras have been used in the city for the past 20 years. And I guess I would ask, how are they currently used, and will anything change other than these body cameras?
Yeah, go ahead when you're ready. Oh, sorry, you queued up. You quit. Oh, go ahead. You're good.
So through the chair, the body cam program wouldn't change the way that we've always used our CCTV cameras through corporate security.
And I think in the report it referred to authorized personnel. So who's authorized?
So for our CCTV policy, that is authorized personnel is restricted just to security right now. The cameras can be seen at a facility, but not reviewed other than from the security department.
So, but there's recordings of what they're, it's not just a live image, right? Is it recording?
Correct, yes, it's recorded on a hard drive at the facility. Security is the only one who's able to review those recordings.
Anyone from your department?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and how many CCTV cameras do we currently have?
Don't have an exact number. I'd say close to 300.
Okay. I just have a bit of a problem with, you know, anybody in the department having access to them and what information is stored and how it's being used.
So the reason for the policy, we've always had an operating procedure in place for security that outlines the use of the cameras and the recordings. All recordings are, I guess, deleted after 30 days if they're not being used in an official investigation. And we will only turn that footage over to our insurance department or Waterloo Regional Police with a request form. All review and, I guess, downloading of that information is also documented by security and incident reports.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the cameras for a moment, is that a live feed or is it also recorded and it will be available for 30 days, or how's that managed? And that might have been in the report.
Through the chair, the body-worn camera footage is a little bit different where it's unique licenses. So each officer will have their own license and can only view their own footage other than the super users, which is the director and the management team by law enforcement. There's 3 different categories of retention for the footage. So there's the routine recordings, which don't have any sort of interaction, that automatically get deleted after 90 days. And then there's investigative ones that are about 30 months plus a day. And then there's ones that are categorized as critical incidents, which is 7 years.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Deneau on this?
Thank you, Chair Davey. Have there been any policy changes for the CCTV in the last number of years?
Mr. Ernst, go ahead.
So through the chair, the policy, the internal security policy was created about 2016. There's only been minor changes based on the documentation of how security is documenting the footage. This is the first time that we've gone to a corporate official policy just to put that in place.
Okay, and as far as in terms of who can view it, that hasn't changed, right?
Correct, that has not
Okay,
changed.
okay, thank you.
And Mayor Verbenovich.
Thank you very much. Just in terms of the cameras and so on, so essentially these operate in a similar manner to ones that folks have at home, except we have a fixed destruction point of view to them.
Through the chair, that's correct. We have all of our hard drives are set to a 30-day, I guess it's basically a re-taping over schedule. The only way that any footage is saved beyond that point is if it's downloaded specifically for an investigation.
Okay, and the footage and so on that's captured is, based on how you've described it, it's not sort of run or used against any other databases or anything like that. It's simply footage that is captured, and if there's a criminal offense that happens, then you have it for investigative purposes.
Correct, yes. We don't have the capacity at this time to even live view all of those cameras at one time, so it's strictly for after the fact use.
So if, for example, we have, I know from time to time we trespass people on some of our properties and so on, these cameras don't have any ability to check against their trespass list or video or anything like that.
Not a function that we use. They do have the ability, but it's not something we use for facial recognition or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else in the queue, so did I get a mover for the consent items? I don't recall. I did? Yeah, okay, if I didn't, Councillor Deneau. Not seeing any other requests or comments, so I would ask those in favor. And opposed, I believe that carries unanimously. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the discussion items. The first is 5.1, Sabic Homes, 15 Delray Avenue. I don't believe staff is speaking to this, at least in my notes, I don't see that. Okay, so I would take any questions on this at this point. Not seeing any questions, can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Ioannidis. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Those in favor? And that carries unanimously as well. And we'll move on to the next item, which is the council compensation review. Mr. Watkins, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Davey, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll just take a brief moment here to offer some introductory comments on the report before you today before turning it over to our consultant. So as you will recall, on February 2nd, Council directed staff to proceed with an independent review of council compensation with the intent of ensuring both transparency and alignment with market practice ahead of the next term of council. This review was primarily recommended based on results of recently conducted reviews undertaken by other municipalities, including all but two in Waterloo Region. Following that direction, staff retained Marianne Love Consulting Services, a firm with more than 30 years of experience conducting public sector compensation reviews across Ontario. The consultant's mandate was intentionally focused to given the limited time to undertake the review and the fact that a comprehensive review is already scheduled for the next term of council. The review focused solely on base pay, used comparator group of cities within regional municipalities, and assessed council compensation against established benchmarks. The consultant is joining us virtually today from her office in Ottawa to present her findings on the work and respond to any questions you may have. Recommendations from committee will be brought forward to special council later this afternoon to ensure that any decision on council compensation is finalized in advance of the opening of nominations on May 1st for the 2026 municipal election. With that context, I'll turn it over to the consultant for her presentation.
Thanks very much, Justin. And you can see, Chair, that the presentation's on screen. And I believe clerk's going to move the slides. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have, Chair, through the presentation, or we can hold those to the end. I'll just follow your lead.
Okay, thank you and welcome.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as has been set out in the introduction, we were retained to conduct a compensation review for the elected officials at Kitchener. There's a policy that outlines compensation for elected officials that was approved in 2002, and that resulted in changes to base pay rates that were effective Jan 1 of 2003. There have been subsequent amendments to this policy. Those were made to reflect the elimination of the tax-free exemption and also enrollment in OMERS. I was asked to review municipal comparator information. It was largely collected by City of Kitchener staff. We had a few data points that we needed to add on our end. And really, as has been set out in the introduction, to focus on base pay remuneration. And we did that by using percentile target analysis. And of course, these recommendations are really prepared for Council's consideration this afternoon. I'll take the next one, thanks. This slide sets out your remuneration and the base pay practices it's relating to base pay. So the 2026 annual base pay rates that were effective April 1st of this year are set out here, where the mayor is at $121,262 and councillor positions at $62,385. There is no defined percentile target for base pay at present, and the annual base pay increases, I'm advised, are tied to the annual salary adjustment, or COLA, for the non-union and management staff. We have 11 members of council, and this is including the mayor. There is no deputy mayor at Kitchener. Councillors are considered part-time and they serve on city council. The mayor serves on city council and also at regional council. Just by way of overall summary, the 2026 base pay remuneration for mayor and councillor positions is low when we compare it to the defined pay market. And that's when zeroing in or reflecting the 60th percentile. And I'll get I'll drill down on that in a few slides. The 2026 market summary annual pay rates at the 60th percentile for the defined pay market are for the mayor $156,762 and for councillor $68,803. All of our comparators adjust council salary annually. A strong majority of the comparators provide adjustments based on COLA, aligned with exempt staff, and they also conduct a market review at the end of each term of council. This slide sets out the methodology and the source data that was used. We identified 9 comparators to use for this review, and the comparator group it was selected and is reflective of the following selection criteria. Scope. So we're looking at local area municipalities, certainly geographic location, some regard to historic comparators, and some general alignment with comparators used for the non-union and management staff review. A custom survey was prepared using the 9 comparator municipal organizations you see on slide, and I'll just read them out. We have Markham, Vaughan, Oakville, Richmond Hill, Burlington, Oshawa, Cambridge, Milton, and Waterloo. And only the city portion of the base pay was used in the market analysis. We did not use any regional pay received by a position for regional work or regional participation. So you'll see on the next slide a bit more of a, I'll just ask the clerk to move slide. Thanks. There's a bit more descriptor on this slide with regards to some of the selection criteria. So you see the comparator down on the left-hand side in the region. So there's geographic location. The population is noted, and that's from 2021 Stats Canada. There is a 2026 Stats Canada exercise that's underway in May of this year. That data obviously then is not available, but it does give us a sense of relative size by population. It does not pick up growth, but it gives us a consistent numeric to compare through the comparator group. The size of council is also shown, as well as the statement of operation, statement of expenses coming from the operation expenses, coming from the municipal FIRs that have been filed. And of course, you see again at the bottom of slide, we're using 2024 Ontario Financial Information Return data, just to give us a sense of those expenses. The data is to be filed. You know, it was to be filed in March, and that isn't a fully complete data set for 25 as yet. So again, we're seeing a consistent data set being reflected for 24. So these are just general indicators around size and scope, and we put this in for council's information. This slide sets out the sort of the outputs of the analysis, and I'll start at top of slide here. Base pay comparative statistics are shown in this market summary, and we use various percentiles, the 50th, the 55th, and the 60th percentile targets. You can see in each one, they're colored just for ease of the eye. And you can see a column that's referenced as percentage differential, and that just gives us a sense of the gap between the Kitchener elected official position and that base pay rate for that official, and then what the market statistic is showing. And where we have pluses, that means we need to increase current base pay to achieve that target that's reflected.
Yeah,
So
sorry,
just on this
Marianne, can I ask you to hold
slide-
pause for just 1 sec? Madam Chair, is it possible to move the video because it's covering some of the information? No, it's not? Okay, no problem. Sorry, please continue. It is actually in the report though too, if you want to reference that as well. Sorry, Marianne, please continue.
Good. Yes, it's blocked on mine too, but I think I know what it is, so I'm okay there. But thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to step back from the slide for just a little bit and talk about percentiles. And the use of percentiles may well be known to council, because I expect, you use percentiles for other metrics in our government, in our administration. But really, it's a better reflection of ranking and positioning than an average. So when we are using percentile comparisons, we're really trying to determine how we rank and compare amongst the data set that's been selected. What you don't see on the slide is the number of observations. We just took that out because we knew we had 9 comparators. So for the mayor and council, we have 9 observations for each of those percentile targets. You don't see any differential beside the deputy mayor. That's because we don't have one in Kitchener. And also, just for information, there were 3 of the comparative municipalities that had deputy mayor, so certainly not the majority. It was the minority that did, but we reflected that. The excuse me, percentile targets, as I said, give us a sense of how we rank and compare, and you will see as you move your eye across screen, so from the market median, which is the 50th percentile ranking, to the 60th, the numbers are growing. And that's because we're looking at a higher ranking amongst the pool of comparators. The 60th percentile is the dollar rate that you see here on screen, where 40% of the observations are above that amount and 60% are below. Okay? And I'll take the next slide. So this slide gives us a bit more detail with regards to the numbers that you saw on the slide previous. Our compensation philosophy in Kitchener seeks to position elected officials competitively within the municipal sector. Market benchmarking, as I said earlier, allows council compensation comparisons across similar municipalities. Now, to support decision-making, council compensation has been reviewed against different percentile points. So you see the 50th percentile target. I won't go through the numbers, you see them on screen. The 55th percentile target and the 60th. So again, these targets are increasing, and that just means an increase, like a higher ranking amongst that peer group of comparators. I'll take the next slide, please. This slide, again, just additional reflections on base pay comparisons. Council's current compensation is positioned below the 60th percentile. The base pay for mayor is below all percentile benchmark targets. The base pay for councillors is competitive to the 50th percentile, but below the 55th and the 60th. This review is recommending aligning council compensation of the 60th percentile, and that's based on a number of considerations. First off, it's Kitchener's population size and scale of municipal operations. And not to ask the clerk to go back to the previous slide, but you'll see in terms of size and scope indicators, there's a number of smaller municipalities in terms of, financial, in terms of, say, the financial operating data that was provided, and also population. So to come up a little higher within that ranking of the 9 seems reasonable yet conservative. So our population is above the 60th percentile based on the 2021 census data. And it's also above the municipal operating budget, okay? The 60th percentile of the municipal operating budget indicator that was reflected. And you see the numbers here on screen. I just won't reference them, but just general, as I said, general reflection is we're above the 60th percentile. So in terms of size scope, so it makes sense not to bring ourselves in at the middle of the pack, if you will, but a little higher in the 60th percentile is more reflective, I think, of relative positioning. Certainly, the other thing that I wanted to underscore was the additional responsibilities of this council that is associated with governing one of the 2 municipally owned natural gas utilities in the province, for which I'm advised there is no separate compensation. So we have additional duties for Kitchener in relation to the peer organizations, again, supporting a bit of a higher percentile target. Ensuring, and another consideration, of course, is ensuring broad consistency with the corporation's or the organization's overall compensation philosophy, and wanting to maintain competitiveness with the peer municipalities to support effective governance. So the base pay rates that are being recommended effective next term of council are for the mayor $156,762 and for councillors $68,803. I'll take next slide. So in terms of pay practice, as it relates to base pay, all of our comparators are reporting annual salary adjustments for councils, for their councils. 7 report that they apply a COLA adjustment to align with exempt employee groups. And 2 comparators report that they use CPI increases or related economic indicators to determine their increases. Reviews are typically completed during the last term of council and prior to the municipal elections. 6 of our comparators report that they conduct their reviews prior to the end of council's term. 1 comparator conducts a review every 2 to 3 years, and 2 comparators are conducting reviews on an ad hoc basis. And by way of conclusion, the comparator group, in our view, is representative based on select criteria. It is prevailing practice to generally align the comparator group for council-based pay with the comparator group for the non-union management staff, and we took that into consideration here. The 60th percentile pay target, in our view, is reasonable based on the size, scope, and pay practice of the comparator group and factors that are unique to Kitchener, specifically the accountability for governing the municipally owned natural gas utility. The base pay rates for mayor and councillor both require an increase to meet the 60th percentile pay target. It is best practice to increase annual base pay for elected official positions by the amount used to adjust the non-union management staff salary grid. And this is allowing for a year-over-year increase to align with cost of living increases, also supported by our survey results. It is also best practice to review compensation once during the term of council using comparative municipalities. And again, it allows that sort of periodic systematic review to avoid large increases in any one term review. In terms of recommendations, we're recommending that council give consideration to implementing the base pay adjustments you see on screen effective next term of council, and that effective date is November 15th of this year. For the mayor, $156,762, councillor $68,803, based on the considerations that have been set out in this report. It's further recommended that council continue the practice of adjusting base pay for the elected official positions annually by using the percentage economic adjustment provided for the non-union management staff compensation grid. And further, it's recommended that council adopt the pay practice of reviewing compensation once during each term of council in consultation with third-party consultant and a comparison of comparator organizations. And this, again, aligns with best practice in sector and amongst the peer comparator group. I take any questions, Chair?
Thank you for your presentation. There are a couple questions, beginning with Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my focus on the conversation. So I'm going to move my camera so it's a little bit easier in view. Sorry, my apologies. Is not necessarily on the recommendation and the report towards the compensation, but ensuring that the report effectively and adequately outlines the responsibilities and the efforts that this council is undertaking as its responsibilities. I'm glad, Ms. Love, that you outlined the gas utility, because that does make City of Kitchener quite unique compared to all its peer municipalities, Kingston being the only other one. But there was no mention of, as a comparator, of severance package, where some municipalities do outline severances if someone is not successful in retention of their, remaining in office. How does that compare City of Kitchener, where City of Kitchener does not have that?
Sure. If
That's
I can,
one.
Chair? Yep.
That's one. And the second question is, and your report did outline this in reference to a deputy mayor position, where other cities do have a deputy mayor role, and that compensation accordingly is higher than a member of council. In the City of Kitchener, although we don't have deputy mayors, we do follow the practice of outlining responsibilities shared amongst all of us as acting mayors. And I think all of us in various different formats have attended different functions, events, or responsibilities related to as an acting mayor, and we share that responsibility, but that does come with effectively additional workload that's shared amongst us. So although we don't have a deputy mayor, we are undertaking that extra duties as well. Can you outline that also?
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr.
yeah.
Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you very much for the questions. First question relating to ancillary pay. I understand that there's going to be a more comprehensive review of council remuneration in the next term of council. And typically, when we review on a comprehensive basis, the other elements of remuneration, they would include key components of ancillary pay. It could be which would include retirement benefits, for example, health and dental benefits, pension pension plan participation. So there'll be a list of additional pieces of ancillary pay that I would expect would be included in that review. This review was really intended, as was referenced in the introduction at the beginning of this presentation, really to focus on base pay, to get to, with the view to having that reset in a sort of a more competitive way to move this council into the next term, understanding more work would be done. With regards to the second question, and granted, we see that there is a note there on screen, and you'll see it in your package for deputy mayor, but there are only 3 of the 9 that have a deputy mayor. So I really don't think from our perspective that the data is necessarily skewed because there's the corollary to that is 2/3 of the comparators don't have a deputy mayor. So I think the data is pretty representative of a non-deputy mayor scenario. If it were that the majority had a deputy mayor, I think that would be taken into account with regards to the base pay. But because it's a minority and it's a small minority, so it's a 1/3 of the data set, we really didn't think that entered into it considerably. So we didn't take that into account. But we did want to show what at least the 3 observations look like.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Ioannidis.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Davey. Thank you, Ms. Love, for your presentation. Just out of curiosity, based on your experience, when we look at the report, the last time a really comprehensive review was done was basically 2002. Is that unusual compared to other municipalities in that length of time to see a comprehensive review?
Through the chair, frankly, it is unusual. The norm is to have compensation reviewed once a term, and for reasons set out, because then it's just sort of it's a touch point versus, oh, we really need to do a deep dive here, and perhaps bring in adjustments that are sometimes folks may kind of pause and wonder. But clearly, in an evolving pay market, and the municipal sector is one, both staff-wise and governance-wise, it's something to keep our minds on. So I think there's 2 prevailing recommendations in this report. One is the adjustment itself, and the other is the practice of going out and reviewing the pay market once a term of council. That really has evolved to best practice over the last 5-10 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's just myself left with the question, Marianne, if I could. I just want to make sure it's clear on how the percentile system works when we're only looking at pay. So if I could just illustrate an example. Let's say the cohort was only our 2 most local municipalities, being Waterloo and Cambridge, each of which has approximately half of our population, a bit less in some cases. But their pay is approximately, at least the recent changes, their pay is similar to us. How would that paint Kitchener if the wage percentile was the only factor being considered?
Well, first of all, just statistically, it's very hard to get a rank order and a percentile comparison when there's only 2 observations. We pretty much need 3 or more, all right, observations to really understand what the rank order is amongst the group. I think it's important to understand, just by way of reflection here, it's important to understand what your closest peer municipalities are doing, both in terms of what they're paying and how often they're going out to the pay market, because that's a practice that we'd probably want to be mindful of. And that observation in terms of how we actually see the data, does that inform us? Does that give us a better understanding or feel that amongst the broader group, we should be positioned a little higher than the middle of the pack, which is the 50th percentile? The answer is yes. Yes, it does. So I think there's a number of considerations, and council and yourself, Chair, or committee, I should say, and yourself have sort of hit on a number. There's the responsibility for utility, which is quite unique in the province. There's the fact that, we've got, I would say, a relatively conservative comparator pool. We've got some smaller municipalities in there. So we haven't stacked it with large municipalities. So, and if we did, you probably wouldn't hear a recommendation from me at the 60th percentile. It would probably be a lower percentile. But that's not the way we do it on the staff compensation across the province. We try to take pretty good set, some larger, some smaller, and how do we see ourselves within that grouping based on the unique characteristics to the organization we're doing the work for. And there are a number of unique characteristics for Kitchener. There certainly are. One is the geographic placement, clearly, and then the responsibility for utility.
Okay, thank you. My only other question on with referencing the gas utility as part of the rationale for moving up from the 50 percentile. If it were workable with staff, would it make logical sense to you, or if you don't have an opinion, that's fine, but to have instead of muddling it with current base remuneration, having some of that difference come directly via the gas utility division?
Well, Chair, I can answer that from my perspective in terms of the feasibility of that happening. Maybe that's something, your CIO can address. But certainly, if there were to be remuneration directly from that utility, then I obviously wouldn't say that, it would be considered in the percentile. There's maybe still other factors that would impact the percentile. And it would also depend on how much the remuneration is. But the fact is today, it's not there. In the future, might it be? And could that be taken into account with regards to a future review? Yes, most likely. Right? But it's hard to put a premium on that value. Like, is that worth 5 percentile points? Is that worth 10 percentile points? It's very difficult to assess that. Right now, we just know there's nothing.
Okay, thank you for that.
Trying to recognize it.
Since we've had our conversation, a couple more people have jumped into the queue here, so you do have some more questions coming. Next up is Councillor Stretch.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering if you could put the slide back up where it did put it within context of other municipalities. Specifically, I want to look at Waterloo and Cambridge,
Sure.
some of the bigger cities that sit on the region with us, and just have a clear understanding for myself as where we sit within that peer group.
So you see them on slide here. You can see Kitchener's 11 members. You see the population just running across just to get our eyes all acclimatized. About 257,000 rounded, 11 members of council, and approximately 473 million in operating. And then we move down to, say, Cambridge and Waterloo. Cambridge, smaller population, 138. And then there's 9 members and a lot smaller on the operating expenses, and likewise with Waterloo. So we know that Kitchener is larger in size and scope. We know that to be the case. So it would sort of stand to reason against amongst the group. We're not just comparing to those two, but they are key considerations within the comparator pool. We want to, there should be a reflection amongst the comparator pool that we're also comparing to larger, because we are larger. And you see on that slide that there are municipalities that are larger, and they're larger than Kitchener's data points. That, from my perspective, is a good data set. That helps us understand, without just looking at two, looking at it more fulsome, it helps us understand and support the target values and the ultimate recommendation.
Thank you. And my last question is, again, I guess the percentile difference between a mayor and a councillor, and how we can ensure that that gap doesn't increase but also stays consistent. Do you have any insight or advice on how that?
Well, through the chair, I think that's a very interesting question. That really wasn't the subject of this review, but it's an interesting thing to probe. I think as we work through, or as, I shouldn't say we, as the organization works through a more in-depth review of remuneration in the next term. And, you know, there's sort of I wouldn't even say there's a rule of thumb on what the appropriate differential is, but there's ways to take a look at what the differentials are amongst the peer group. That's something we can take into account, but in the end, it's the base pay that really sort of drives that piece. And as the other member of committee referenced earlier, some of those 3 of the 6 that we used for this review have a deputy mayor. So that's a bit of a buffer between the councillor and on pay and the mayor, but 2/3 don't. So a deeper dive on some of those components, I think, would be interesting in the next review, in addition with other elements of the ancillary pay.
Great, thank you.
So that can be taken under advisement.
Okay, thank you. Next is Mayor Verbenovich.
Thank you very much, and thanks, Ms. Love, for your report. A few quick questions. One of the things that happened in the recent provincial review, which was long overdue, quite frankly, they actually set theirs going forward, I believe, to 70% of the federal rate going forward. And the federal rate one, I think, is somehow connected to the judiciary, if I remember correctly. Is that a normal sort of practice kind of thing? Is that something that in the future we should look at as part of that more comprehensive review next term?
Through the chair, the percentage, and I understand why it's perhaps done in the province, but amongst municipalities, the norm and the practice is more so what are peer organizations paying. We have a lot of that data. It's a smaller data pool when you're dealing with provinces and the feds. So there needs to be, I think, a different way of approaching the metric and those considerations. Here, we have 444 municipalities. We have no issue in terms of coming in with a comparator group. So it's quite easy, and I think we have a better reflection on competitive pay in that regard.
Okay, thank you. And in your recommendations, you refer to the review period, and you've suggested that we do something every term. That would be a best practice. I'm guessing it would make sense to do that in the first part of the first part of the term, maybe the midway point or something like that. But sort of recognizing what you've looked at now and recognizing the fact that we haven't done this since 2002, which it actually surprised me that it's been that long. I'm wondering if there are specific things you think we should look at as part of that next review?
Through the chair, yeah, I think some of that has been touched on. I think in the next review, which I understand is sort of a deeper dive over the next term of council, I think some of the other elements of pay and pay practice, specifically ancillary pay, benefits, car allowance, retirement allowance, entitlement to pension, things of that nature. And I think there's quite a laundry list that's typically done, when we're doing a broader review than just base pay. And I think that's something that should be, that list should be considered, and then pull in the data from the peer organizations and do a comparative analysis. I think the benefit of this review that council's undertaken is at least we've got a reset on the base pay, which is the largest component of remuneration. It's the largest component. So that will, I think, bode the next term of council pretty well in terms of moving in for the next review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Oh, yeah. Can you tell us what, so every year we get an increase, there's compensation, like an increase in our wages. Can you tell me when the last one was and what that increase was as a percentage of the previous compensation package?
Chair, I'm going to ask the CIO to comment on that because I can't recall what the last annual adjustment was or what the adjustment was for 26, but
I'm not sure, Councillor Chapman, if we'd have that information available immediately. Maybe staff could follow up with email. Yeah, yeah. We'll follow up with that in email. Oh, that was your only question. Okay. Councillor Schneider?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Marion. When it comes to the increase, is this something that comes all at once and for the full term, or can be something that gets phased in year by year?
To the chair, that's an interesting question, and it's one that a number of councils have asked. And it really depends on many times the size of the increase, right? And so if it's a large increase, council may choose to direct that, you know, half of the increase be put in the first year and then the next half the second year. Bear in mind that each time the COLA adjustments still have to take effect because we need to do that or else we lose lockstep. But it's really up to council to make that determination. Clearly, when it's done and we can all see sort of just conceptually the benefit of doing once a term, we don't have to really think about that so much. But here it is. We haven't had the benefit of a relatively recent review, and this is how we're positioned today.
Okay.
So that's a council decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And second round, Councillor Ioannidis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Davey. And again, this question of mine came up as the discussions went with regards to when you see a big difference in pay equity perspective for, like, let's say the mayor as an example, that's in your report is underpaid. How does that affect individuals who may look at the position and want to look at putting their name in the hat and trying to run? Do you see that as a detriment when it's to having individuals who want to put forth their name, seeing that the pay is rather insignificant?
Well, through the chair, yes, personally I do. Well, personally and professionally, yes, I do. It can be seen as a detriment. I think in municipal government compensation, what we want is a fair remuneration. And that's a very difficult thing to determine what is fair. We have, a lot of folks that serve on councils that put an awful lot of time. So this is not a time and effort metric at all. This is just saying what is out there amongst other peer organizations who we want to be relatively competitive. So that's, to me, it's if council has the principle, embraces the principle of fair pay, then periodic increases. All right, regular COLA adjustments and periodically testing the pay market is a responsible thing to do. All right, and I think in most municipalities that lands positively, constructively. We want to have qualified and willing participants at a government table.
Okay, and again, I guess my second question would be with regards to locally. When you see a huge pay disparity among local councils in comparison, would that not want to discourage folks who want to try to run when they see, well, why would I run in my city when all the other cities are they're paying way more than what the city I live in? Like, why is that? Why are they so low?
Through the chair, I think they might ask that question.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm not sure that's really a question for the consultant who's comparing wages. It's more rhetorical.
They may ask the question, but they don't live in those other municipalities. So if they're wanting to live and run, this is it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Levels appear to be all the questions. Thank you so much for taking the time today and for the work. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Appreciate the time, and I'll sign off.
Okay, thank you. Take care now. Any questions of staff, of our staff on this? I do have one. I have an amendment that was sent to the clerk. I actually did not really get a chance to thoroughly vet this through staff ahead of time, so I wanted to clarify. And it was leading from the question earlier on whether the gas utility should be separately broken out. And what I'm proposing here is all of the absolute dollar figures would remain the same. So from the staff's recommendation, which hasn't been moved yet, by the way, I need a mover. Can I get a mover for this item, by the way? Moved by Councilor Naidus, thank you. The absolute remuneration would stay the same, except instead of pushing the percentile up from 50 to 60 in base pay, to have the difference really acknowledge the municipally owned gas utility and have that difference covered by the municipally owned gas utility instead. That sets a framework, and I know the consultant said that there should be some analysis in the future, but this sets a framework for that to occur without it changing the absolute recommendation of the consultant. And I can't move that, and I understand, Councilor Naidus, you would move that, Mike. Thank you. So again, my question to staff would be, is this something that could be implemented in time for the next council? Is the first question. And second question, do you have any greater problems or concerns with this approach? Mr. Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do appreciate the heads up that you gave me before the meeting in terms of this item. Taking a look at the council budget, right now, the only enterprise that makes a contribution to the mayor and council budget is the building enterprise. I think historically, maybe it was considered that council was a general government service funded through property taxation. But as you've noted through this review, a part of your governance role does extend to municipal enterprises, including the gas utility, and so it would not be inappropriate to recover a portion of the cost of council from those enterprises. And I like the way that you've worded the motion, that basically, much like the building enterprise, there would be an allocation for the percentile difference from those enterprises to the mayor and council budget to help offset the cost of compensation. So staff have no concern.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Mayor Verbanovich.
No, just in terms of your amendment, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I can support that. And I apologize because I didn't have a chance to really reflect on a couple of amendments that one I think I've mentioned to some of you. But on the review period and the reference from Ms. Love, I'm wondering, Mr. Chapman, would it make sense that as part of that recommendation that happen next term, that we actually reference that it specifically happen in the first half of next term, and that include the items that Ms. Love mentioned this afternoon as part of that review. Obviously, the next council would still have the opportunity to change that direction if they were so inclined, but the motion would then otherwise, if they don't, automatically kick in that process.
Mr. Chapman?
Through the chair, that would be entirely council's prerogative to give that direction. The only comment I would make about timing is that it can be done early in the term, but as we've seen in this council term, most of our counterparts completed the reviews late in the council term. And so the reality is that you would be setting rates based on older information and wouldn't have the benefit of their compensation reviews. And so certainly on the issue of what's in scope, I have no concern with everything that was discussed today. I would just caution council that you may be setting rates that are not reflective of market if you do it before the comparator group moves forward.
Okay. So on that, Mr. Chair, I think then what I would suggest, based on Mr. Chapman's comments, is an amendment that would see us direct staff to do that work prior to the 2030 election period kicking off, so that gives lots of room in terms of when to do it, but to include the items that Ms. Love mentioned, and that way it specifically kicks that into motion. The second amendment that I'd like to make at the appropriate time, and I get that this is very much a numbers exercise, and we're trying to keep things in line with the comparables. Having said that, I recognize what those numbers realities may be in terms of the mayor's role, but I also recognize the current time period that we're in, And so I'd like to actually limit the proposed mayor's increase to the same percentage that is recommended for the councillors. So I think it's 10 point something, 10.3.
Okay, I will take those two amendments. Did anyone wish to comment on this in general? There we go, we're lighting up. Beginning with Councillor Ioannidis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Davey. I'm just not understanding the first amendment. Based on this report, wouldn't that review be conducted near the end of the term as best practices?
Mayor Benovich?
So the recommendation right now is that council adopt the practice of, I'm just trying to read the whole thing, hang on, I gotta make it a little smaller, of reviewing compensation once during each council term in consultation with the third-party consultant and a comparison with comparator municipalities. And so what the amendment is saying it specifically should happen before the start of the 2030 electoral period, much like we're endeavoring to complete it right now, before the 2026 one opens. And secondly, Ms. Love indicated a number of things that we should look at based on her professional experience. And so I've suggested that that would be part of that review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Schneider?
Thank you, Chair Davey. And I just want to speak in support of your amendment. I think it sends a clear message that, yes, we do have extra responsibilities as a City of Kitchener councillor, and that the difference in the pay, the percentile, comes from that utility. The work we do is challenging, it's meaningful, it's sometimes difficult, it does take a lot of time. And while these increases have been well researched and they are reasonable, it is a very difficult time for many people right now. And optically, it's very difficult to say, hey, we have to make up for lost time and you have to pay for it. I think recognizing the contributions we make and the extra responsibility for the gas utility and that pay coming from the gas utility makes really good sense.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you. So I have great difficulty with all of this. I've never worked a job, and I've worked many different jobs where I actually sit down and decide what my pay raise is going to be. So I'm sorry, but I can't support any of this. I don't know how these things have to come about, but I feel I've got a huge conflict of interest in this. As was mentioned, people are struggling, to pay for the gas in their cars, food on their table, rents which are off the charts, and to think that we would be giving ourselves a 10.3% wage increase, which again, for me, I've never seen a wage increase of that magnitude in any job that I've ever worked in. So I'm sorry, but I can't support this, and I realize that we get our annual increase, and I wish somebody could tell me what that is, how much, when it was, and how much we got, and maybe over the past 4 or 5 years, what that looked like, because it's not like we're not getting increases. Some people get no increases year to year. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to support this.
Thank you. Councillor Stretch?
Yes, thank you. I just want to confirm one question. So with the proposed amendment from Urbanovic, would that mean that each review following would come at the end of term for that council?
No, I think he just said before, definitely before the following term, so it could still happen at any point, and that's probably to be determined by the next council. But Mr. Chapman indicated that for the best analysis, it should be near the end of the term. Mayor Benovich's initial suggestion was earlier in the term, probably because it hasn't been done since 2002. But my sense would be that should be a decision of the next council. Mr. Chapman?
Through you, Mr. Chair, what I understood the mayor's motion to meet, and perhaps you can clarify if I have it incorrectly, is that direction was for the purposes of the next review. What's in scope for the subsequent reviews and the timing of those will be decided by future councils, but this is all with respect to the next term of council.
Okay, thank you. I guess I wanted to add, as a new counselor, this is definitely the most full-time, part-time job that I have ever had. And although there are many people who, really struggle to get pay increases, I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I think building in consistent structure so that there's less decision-making and more preemptive decisions being made is a wise move. And, as far as where we sit within the region, within that context, I think that is an important piece, as those are our peers and our colleagues that we're working with. And so I think that is an important context in what we're dealing with. And I think, honestly, especially as a mayor, that's important based on the level of responsibility and decision-making power that there is potential for. So those are things I'm taking into consideration. I am looking into supporting the staff report. Councillor Davey, your amendment looks good, and Mayor Urbanovic, I'm still considering what you're proposing. I haven't landed.
It's fair. Councillor Michaud.
Thank you. I'm falling quite in line with Councillor Chapman on this. I really struggle with giving myself a raise to Councillor Chapman's comments. I've worked a number of jobs over my lifetime, and I've never sat around a table and decided what I was going to, or what I deserve to get. I wish there was another body that could decide this. I know that was a recommendation, but here we are, considering giving ourselves a 10.3, 7.7 raise when to Councillor Chapman's comments and to Councillor Davies' comments in past of we are in really tough times right now. We've been very careful on how we are going to spend money because of the tough times that we're heading into and the conditions of the economy and the direction that the interest rates are going to go and everything else is going to tie in line with people having a hard time to pay the bills, to buy groceries, the gas prices. It just goes on and on. I cannot, in good conscience, support this and give myself a 10% raise.
Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Chair Davey. The reality is we're not giving ourselves a 10% raise. We're giving the future council a 10% raise. Whoever is that fortunate enough to sit around this horseshoe. Yeah, and it's an awkward position to give yourself a raise, but like all the other decisions that we have to make at council, when recommendations come to us and there's a budget issue or there's a capital budget issue, it ultimately lies with us to make that decision. And I remember getting 10% raises over 3 years back in the early 2000s in healthcare. But that was a long time ago. And you're right, those days are done or long gone. Maybe they'll come back one day. But, with respect to people out there struggling, I agree. But I would also think that some of us are struggling as well. Whether you're a public official, elected official, everybody's feeling the pinch around the gas pump, around food prices, around registration for children's activities. And so it's not an inevitable position that we're put in, but ultimately it does fall to us to make this decision. Again, we're not giving ourselves a pay increase, we're giving future councillors and councils the opportunity to have their wages increased. And as Councillor Stretch said, it's considered a part-time job, but it's more than a part-time job. We spend some days half a day, whole day in a community center, or a few hours away from your own family at a function. And I'm not complaining at all. I've loved almost every minute of my time here, but it comes with a price though at the same time. And so I will support the recommendation. Thank you to Councillor Davey for his amendment, and also Mayor Urbanovic for his amendment as well. I don't know if I'm going to support his fully, but I appreciate where your thought is.
Councillor Michaud, you wanted to follow up?
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to add to my comments. I support the mayor's increase because I will tell you, Barry Verbanovic works like double full-time, that he never stops. So I'm just gonna put that there. But I also want to say personally that when I decided to run as a councillor, I didn't even know how much money that we were getting. It didn't matter because it was a call to duty to serve the citizens in our community. And that's why I look at being a councillor. And yes, it is sometimes feels like a full-time job. I have another full-time job that I do as well. But I do this because of the love of community. And I just, you're right, Councillor Janot, this isn't an increase for us, it's an increase for the next councillors on term. I still don't sit well with 10% increase.
Councillor Stretch, before I go to you, I'm gonna comment briefly if I could as well. Like, I'm not gonna, setting your own pay is a ridiculous position to be in. This is absolutely, in my mind, something the province should have some kind of metric that looks at population workload and tells us how much we should get paid. Like, but the reality is we don't have that. So I'm torn in this. I mean, I looked at the numbers very closely over the last week, and like the one thing I can tell you, looking at our comparator group, and again, this isn't the only thing that should figure in the equation, but when I looked at the cost per capita for councillors of our entire comparator group, we're dead last. Like, we are dead last if our residents are looking for value. Waterloo and Cambridge, for example, they make approximately the same as we do right now, and they have half the population. Waterloo has less than half the population. And while we're looking at the next term of council, and it's difficult to separate us from that next term of council for those of us that are deciding to run again, we also have to consider people that do want to run in this role where they have to try and make ends meet, right? Like, how many, single parents are you going to get running for council? If we're not competitive, and those views are important around this horseshoe. So there is no equity-based pay or anything like that in this role, and I think we are doing future councils a disservice by not making sure. And I'm not even saying competitive, even with what we're looking at here. And again, if you want to look at the numbers in terms of population size and that sort of thing, we are still like very, very low in terms of absolute compensation. So this is something that we have to look at. Yes, we're in this role now. We also have to look at what kind of council we want, what kind of people we want running, and that is the same reason we'll be able to support the mayor's second amendment on his pay, because this isn't, I was going to say a Mickey Mouse job, but that's probably the wrong term to use. This is a big role, and it deserves the right people running for it. So I'm going to go through, again, if you've already spoken once, please try and keep your comments more brief. Councillor Stretch.
Yes, thank you. Can we see Mayor Verbanovic's amendment in written form? That would be helpful.
Which?
Mayor Verbanovic's
For his pay?
amendment.
He has two, but the...
I guess I'd like to see both of them.
Both? I'm not sure if he has them written.
That's okay. My last comment is, if you are able to apply and campaign for a job that you haven't considered the pay for, that is an absolute privilege to be able to come at it from that point of view. And I think that it's important that we look out for who's coming next and after us. And I think that's something that we really need to consider seriously.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My apologies. I missed a bit of the discussion, and to my understanding, one of the recommendations is the additional recommendation in the increase in council pay be coming from the gas utility. Can you correct me on that one, on the amendment that's on the floor?
That's correct. So it would see our base pay, our tax-supported base pay staying at that 50 percentile, and the increase suggested by the consultant coming from the gas utility effectively is what it means.
Okay, all right. If you would allow me to make my comments.
Please.
I think that is the right course to take. One of the biggest differentiator between the city of Kitchener and many of our peers is the fact that we do have that extra layer of responsibility with the Kitchener utility. And that responsibility comes with decision-making process as well as additional oversight, which adds on to the complexities of the job, as well as the increase in that work format as well. So ensuring that that differential come from the gas utility is the right course to take. And it keeps us more responsible in differentiating our responsibilities between what we do towards our tax base as elected members and effectively being almost like a board of governors or a board of directors for a gas utility, where responsibilities and the compensation or some of that compensation comes from the revenues from collected through those users. From my peers, the comments that I was able to listen to, I was on the fence on this one. I share some of the concern and apprehension, and some members who are outlining that it's not fair for us to decide our own pay. I wish there was we could completely delegate our authority to a citizen committee who would have the final say, and not coming back to us to ratify. It doesn't really, because this does the same thing. It would give this responsibility to the citizen committee, and they come back with a recommendation, or you hire a professional that has a broader lens of being able to compare across the board of other municipalities and come with a recommendation that's before us essentially the same. It's us who will have to decide, and that's where the reluctance was on my part. But I would agree with some of the comments made already in saying we need to ensure that we allow a pathway for good candidates who want to step forward and serve our residents. And it would be great for many of us to be able to do this, as a volunteer. But that's not the reality of life. This is even though we are very humble in addressing our role as part-time, it's very far from part-time duties in the various capacities we have to serve our community, in attending awards and representing our residents, which is for many of us 30,000 residents each, along with a huge learning curve and constantly evolving landscape for decision making. This is a full-time job and then some. It's a job that I cherish. It's a job that I'm honored to do. Compensation is not my driving force. But as others have said, this compensation decision is not necessarily outlining what we want to be paid, those that are in office right now, but what is fair compensation for anyone new that might be coming into this office, and ensuring that we are attracting the right pool of talent. We talk about talent attraction. Well, guess what? Ensuring that there are the right people who are representing our citizens with the skill sets that can provide that oversight as a governance body, as well as the right type of representation in community building. Those people would need to be able to make a living as well. That's the reality of life. So on paper it looks like a raise that's 10%, but again, it's a pay raise that has not been addressed or looked at or compared since 2002, since my time on council for 15 years. We haven't addressed this, and I think that almost I think it compounds a problem where we are avoidant on addressing something that we're reluctant to talk about, and it compounds, and we're under compensating our members of council, and then we compound the issue of having to do a pay raise that seems out of line to what average citizen might be looked at. But again, when comparing from 2002 to now, that what's being recommended on paper seems a only slight increase, and especially if this extra increase is coming from the gas utility, it's a limited impact to our taxpayers. Ideally, I would have preferred this decision to have been as part of the new term of council, but I don't want to, negate my responsibility either. I think anyone coming into office should know exactly what their compensation is going to look like and effectively make that decision if they want to run for office or not. So it's not a decision I'm making lightly, but I agree with the comments made by my peers and something that we need to make a decision on now. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Chapman for a second time, and then we're going to take the vote on this.
Yeah, this is just, I'm a bit puzzled by some of the wording here. People are referring to the need for this increased compensation because it will attract good candidates, and we need the right people. I guess I just would ask, what do we mean by that? what are good candidates and who are the right people? Are all of us the right people? Are we good candidates? I mean, it seems like a rather weak argument to justify this increase.
Councillor Initis, briefly, please.
Yeah, I think what was meant by the right candidates is to be equitable. So as Councillor Stretch mentioned, like there's individuals out there that may not have the privilege of being able to leave their job to try to want to have this. So I think that's what, to want to do a public service. I think that's the core of the rationale.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will vote. There are one, two recorded vote on everything. Sure. So we'll do the first recorded vote on the gas utility motion as put forward, if it could be good, by Councillor Ioannidis, and recorded votes are requested for that. And I'm remembering to click Councillor Singh this time. Okay. And that carries. And now we'll do Mayor Verbanovic's, I would like to take them separately. I'm going to do Mayor Verbanovic's first amendment on the review for next council period. And that carries unanimously. And we'll take Mayor Verbanovic's second amendment, which is to reduce the consultant's recommended amount to the same as council. And that carries, I believe, Madam Clerk, by one? Yeah. Okay, and now we will vote on the main motion. And that carries. Okay, we will move on to our next item, which is the Waterloo Regional Police Services closed-circuit television and automatic license plate readers. And I believe our friends from WRPS will be making a 5-minute presentation. Okay, good afternoon. When you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Davey, to Mayor, and to the rest of Council. Thank you very much for having us here. Again, just to speak to you about the closed-circuit television and automated license plate recognition partnership that we are seeking with the City of Kitchener. As a bit of background, it was in 2020 when the Ministry of the Solicitor General launched the CCTV grant for the first time as part of the Ontario Guns, Gangs and Violence Reduction Strategy. The goal is to strengthen community safety and give law enforcement agencies access to the tools they needed to keep Ontarians safe. In 2025, Waterloo Regional Police applied for this grant and was awarded funding to launch our CCTV program. What you see on this slide is a number of other partnerships that exist between municipalities that currently have police-led CCTV programs already in place in Ontario. One of the main things that we prioritized as we built out our strategy was on how do we maintain and ensure confidence and trust in this program with the Waterloo Regional Police. We committed to being completely transparent with information about the program, and we will continue to do so by highlighting camera locations, ensuring clear and visible signage, and providing regular public reporting through our board. Over the past months, we have met with municipal and regional partners, businesses, other police agencies, the Information and Privacy Commission, the business associations, etc. We also conducted community consultation as part of our strategy and provided an avenue for community to learn and ask questions about the program. Once the program's purpose, safeguards, and transparency measures were explained, feedback has been generally positive and supportive, with many asking why we did not already have this program in place in Waterloo Region. We have spoken before about why CCTV and ALPR are such important tools for the Waterloo Regional Police and for our community. They support our crime suppression strategy. They help to decrease violent crime. They help to decrease social disorder occurrences, sometimes just by their overt presence. They support frontline policing by helping to identify suspects, timelines, persons of interest, providing best evidence for court, and supporting positive convictions in court. They help to improve investigative outcomes as they lead to more timely investigations and access to objective evidence. They help to increase public safety as another tool used by police. And they have been seen to support measurable reductions in crime and allow for better coordination of resources for major incidents occurring in real time. We've been very clear that camera locations are not chosen arbitrarily. They are determined using an evidence-based, data-driven approach. We have conducted a 3-year historical analysis based on our uniform crime reporting statistics, citizen-generated calls for service, areas of increased crime and disorder incidents, concerns identified by community, and service-specific considerations to identify locations for cameras to be installed. They are not arbitrarily placed, they are proportionate to achieve safety measures, and they have many procedural safeguards in place, including governance, access, auditability, and compliance. The cameras that we hope to introduce are a combination of pan-tilt zoom cameras, bullet and multi-sensor cameras, each providing a different function. They work off existing infrastructure, which is just power from our existing streetlights. No construction is required. They draw less electricity than a standard household light bulb. So a bullet camera, which provides clear footage at a distance as well as license plate recognition, uses about 20 watts of electricity and costs about $23 a year. A quad camera, approximately $31 a year, and our pan-tilt zoom camera is approximately $45 a year. We've talked a little bit about the benefits of CCTV, but to be clear, CCTV is not speed enforcement. It is not live monitored. Again, it is not arbitrarily placed, and it is not something that is accessible by all members of the police service. What you see on the slide is an example of what public notification would look like to show visibility where cameras would be placed. Throughout our research, we worked in partnership with the Information and Privacy Commission to ensure we were in compliance. All information gathered by WRPS is also in compliance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. We will be using a 30-day retention period, which automatically deletes from the device at that time. Data is stored using encrypted, cloud-based solutions that are located here in Canada, and even encryption keys are used, which means even the vendor cannot access data that is stored. Our program is seen as upholding security as of the persons of interest under the Charter, which speaks to the use of tools aimed to reduce risks to personal safety. This applies to all individuals, even those that, or especially those that are disproportionately face risks to their safety as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Questions? Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Chair Davey. And thank you for coming in. For clarity's sake, maybe for the public, I know the sound of maybe having a camera can be a little scary, but can you go through the policies and procedures of access to it? So this camera, not just anybody can go in for any reason. This is supervised. There is a request form that has to be filled out, as I understand it. Could you explain that whole process and for what reasons? And maybe give us a hypothetical situation for that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Through you, Chair. We have actually the Police Service Board, let's start there, actually will have a policy on the fact that we need to have a procedure in place as well around CCTV. The service has already drafted and completed a procedure on access and use of CCTV. Who can access it, the process by which we can access it, the training that those who have access to it must undergo first to be approved to access it, what the audit functions are, how we actually track when a person maybe accesses it and for what purpose. So everything on the back end is auditable and something that we can report on, much like how we access every other database that we have. So CPIC information, our body-worn video information, in-car camera information. So it'll follow the exact same processes that we have in place already, which are well-established processes. On top of that, we have trained members working in our real-time operations center. So it's a small group of individuals that are the only ones that are approved to receive a request from an officer to access video because an incident has happened, a criminal act has happened, an act of violence has happened, and they are seeking access to the video for evidentiary purposes. So an officer, if they're conducting an investigation and they have a timeline or they have a suspect description, they can send in a request that must be approved by a member of the Real-Time Operations Center, who can then access that video and would then upload that section of video to our data evidence management system. So again, also in another secure area. And that is where the member would be able to access it at that point for their investigation. So they can't access all of CCTV, they can only access the clip that has been provided to them and is placed in data evidence or digital evidence management system.
Okay, and for transparency purposes, would we receive or could we receive a report at the end of the year or periodically that states when the camera was accessed and for what reasons and the result?
So we have committed to providing quarterly updates to our Police Services Board. Those would be through open board reports, much like we report on our use of force, et cetera. So anything where we have an agreement to provide that information. So those would be available and accessible. And we also have built this in that it would fall into our audit cycle as well. So it would be up to the auditor to determine, is that at a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year cycle, much like we audit everything else. But for sure, quarterly reporting that would be publicly accessible. And that would actually be on use of the cameras and then also on successes that we've had as a result of those cameras. We, as I mentioned, we want public confidence that these are actually used to help ensure public safety.
Okay, and is there any examples maybe from other municipalities that you could share where this camera of this type was helpful in solving a crime?
Two that come to mind recently, in the last number of months, you may have read or heard publicly, the City of Guelph was very successful in using their CCTV cameras to follow and track an individual who had committed a significant assault on someone in their downtown core. So it was very useful in identifying the subject for that. We also know that Chatham-Kent had a very successful case where they were actually monitoring and able to see a suspect throw away evidence, which was a firearm. So they were able to then go back to that area and actually locate the firearm. So those are just two that come to the top of mind, but two pretty significant ones.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you. Have you consulted with the Community Legal Services?
With who?
The Community Legal Services, Royal Regional Community Legal Services?
No, we communicate and consulted with our legal team. Our legal team has been part of all consultations with the Information and Privacy Commission, and our legal team has been in consultation with all municipal and regional legal teams as well. I would think, I don't know that one legal agency would speak on behalf of all residents, but where I think there would be agreement is the fact that everything we've done and built into this program aligns with protecting Section 7 charter rights of individuals. And again, it comes down to not arbitrarily placed, done in a fair and equitable manner, and then all of our governance strategies.
Okay. In the report, you focus on the license plate recognition.
Yes.
But you don't mention face recognition. Is that left out purposely, or?
We don't use artificial intelligence for facial recognition through this program at all. It's not enabled.
So there's nothing in the images that are collected that show somebody's face and identify, that could be identified?
How AI is used on the back end, where when we do our query to search hours or days of video, trying to find evidence, we can input information we're looking for, and it will take that information to do its search of the video. So it may then provide multiple different images, and then it's up to the investigator. This is where we refer back to that human in the loop. Maintaining that consistency piece, as the investigator still is required to conduct the investigation based on the evidence that's provided. So AI is used on the back end for doing those queries.
Okay. So downtown, we've got the Downtown Ambassador Program. We've got more city security downtown. We've got more police presence. Why do we need cameras?
So I think two pieces to that. You have a community that is asking for it and a business community that is asking for it. And I believe you all received a letter today from the Kitchener BIA. We also know there is a second letter from some of the specific store owners that have signed in support of the program, as well as Fairview Park Mall. So also because of incidents that have been happening in that area of the city. So it's not a one or the other. I think it's a combination of all of these approaches that are actually helping to ensure and provide tools for public safety. Everything that we do under our crime suppression model is to have an offender-based strategy, it's to have a location-based strategy, and it's to have a community-based strategy, and that's exactly what this is doing. So it's actually as a result of all of those things working together where we're actually going to see success.
And what would the difference of the cameras versus more feet on the ground be?
Again, I don't think it's one or the other. This does not replace officers on the ground. We still require that. Hopefully, what this is intended to do is actually help those officers be more efficient. Right now, when we are trying to do a video canvas, it is going door to door. If someone's not home, it means we're going back again to do door-to-door searches. This would actually provide us with quicker access to objective evidence for investigative purposes.
Okay, maybe this will be my last question. So in the report, you say that they would decrease violent crime, decrease social disorder occurrences, and other things. But in particular, those two items, you say that the cameras will be monitored passively, that they won't be monitored actively. So I don't quite understand how, if there's not somebody there watching the camera about to act, how that is going to decrease the violent crime. And I'll get to some, in my comments, I'll talk about some other data, but can you explain how you are arguing, or how you can justify that argument that it will decrease violent crime and social disorder occurrences when it's being done, the cameras are monitored passively?
So what I can say to you is that in the UK, where this type of technology has been used for many years, they have actually attributed it to a statistically significant decrease in crime happening where CCTV camera is available. Locally, cities such as York, they actually attributed a 6.9% decrease in crime where CCTV cameras were put up. Anecdotally, what we know from reading is the fact that the cameras often act as a deterrent for people when they know that they're being watched as well, which also leads to then a decrease in number of incidents that are happening. And I'm just trying to think of what the second part of your question was.
I forget too.
The other thing being is even where we have seen small decreases in violent crime that have been occurring, we are still looking at about a 50% unsolvability rate around violent crime. And oftentimes that is because of a lack of available evidence to continue with an investigation. So that's another really important thing to note, as it is another investigative tool that can provide evidence to continue these investigations further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Chair Davey, and thank you for coming in today. I'll focus on Ward 3 and Fairview Park Mall. You mentioned that the mall themselves the owners of the mall have indicated that they are very in favor of this type of a program. And so when we're seeing, Fairview or even Conestoga, these crimes that are happening, who's committing the crimes and where are they coming from? Obviously, you don't know everybody, but where's the high propensity of people coming from?
We have locally have definitely seen an increase in crime that is coming from the GTA area. And that is why another one of our partners in this program has been the Ministry of Transportation. And we are working with them as well because we would like to ensure that we have cameras in locations that are like our ingress and egress routes for the region. Because vehicles are traveling into our region, committing crimes, and then leaving our region. These are sometimes individuals we don't know, or it takes extensive investigation working with our community or policing partners in other jurisdictions to actually make connections and identify persons of interest. So we can say that we are seeing an increase in the number of persons coming from outside of our region committing crime here.
Excuse me. I agree with you, but I'm not a police officer. But I think there's proof in the pudding. And so, how will the license plate recognition assist police in A, deterring, or B, capturing some of these individuals?
So a really significant way is that we can actually add a license plate that is connected to a crime vehicle. So say it's been used in a robbery in Burlington or Toronto or a prior robbery here, for instance. We can add those license plates to what's called like a hot list. So when that vehicle actually passes by one of the cameras, it would create an alert, and then we know that vehicle is back in our region. Then it allows us to actually start to deploy resources to the areas where we think that vehicle could be going. So if that were the case and we know it's a vehicle that's been previously involved in a robbery, that might mean that we're ensuring we have resources that are heading to our different malls or to some plazas that have been targeted, or ensuring that we're following up on that, and also then looking for that vehicle. So it also would assist with the ALPR that's already in our vehicles.
So I guess it's a bit more proactive rather than being reactive like we see now.
100%. From a reactive standpoint, if we're conducting an investigation and we're trying to find a vehicle and what route that vehicle may have gone, and we have a license plate, we can also then write a production order to access all of the license plates that ALPR has captured as part of an investigation as well, so that we know where it's traveled and at what time it's traveled by. But again, that wouldn't happen unless we had judicial authorization also built into our procedure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Before I go for a second round, if I could, you provided a lot of examples of good policies and procedures asked by Councillor Schneider. But my question is, if any of these policies or procedures were to be amended or changed, who makes that decision?
So if there's any changes, sorry, through you, Chair, if there are any changes to, let's say, legislation or different recommendations that might come out from the Information and Privacy Commissioner, we would then go back to our procedures to ensure compliance or look at if we need to update those procedures. Even if there isn't one specific thing that causes us to do that, we put all of our procedures on a review cycle anyway. So it would be something that we review every couple of years to ensure it's still in compliance.
But then it wouldn't necessarily come into the public realm. Like, let's say a procedure changed from, instead of erasing the videos after 30 days, it was, 6 months. That's something that could conceivably happen without government involvement, or council's involvement.
No, if it's any change that is in our MOU with the city, we would bring that back to you as well, because that would require an amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding as well. And the memorandum is quite detailed, so it has all of this information in it, including our processes and procedures outlined.
So any change to any of those procedures would have to come back to staff and then to council for any changes existing?
If it's a significant change or any change that would change the body of the Memorandum of Understanding, then yes, it would come back to council.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Councillor Singh. You're muted, Councillor Singh.
Can you hear me better now? Okay, no, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that helped to answer part of my question as to the overall oversight and control that this council would continue to retain in our operation with the Waterloo Regional Police in this pilot. And I'm referencing it back as a pilot because I think that's important consideration there, where residents that may have some concern or members of council that may have some apprehension with this program where they may see an overreach. But ensuring that there is a sense of control with this council and the fact that we have the capacity to look at this program in a year's time and assess the overall, I guess, community benefit and exactly the cooperation that we've been able to, incorporate with the Waterloo Regional Police. Is that control and the retention of the control well retained with the City Council? That's the question.
So that, my understanding, is already currently being discussed between the city's legal counsel and our legal counsel to be put into the MOU as such.
Would it be unfair to consider it as a pilot where we can reassess the terms of the memorandum of understanding and we can tweak that a year's time, or choose to not continue on with the program from a year from now?
Yes, so that is exactly what is being placed into the memorandum of understanding after being brought forward. So there's no issue with that whatsoever.
Okay, I think that helps to hopefully ease concerns in the community as well as members around the horseshoe. You touched on an important point of using the cameras in your investigation methods where you can have faster conviction or also acting as a deterrence. Right now, when you're investigating, how much on the ground work is involved amongst the officers, and how much of a reduction could this allow Waterloo Regional Police, where you can potentially reallocate those resources in other aspects of community safety?
Mm-hmm. So because this will be a phased-in implementation, it may take some years to see the true benefits in the reduction, because obviously it's in just certain areas to start with. But if I could give you an example of a significant incident where we, let's say there's a shooting incident or a violent incident that's happening, we're pulling together a team right now, whether it's from our general investigative unit, whether it's a combination of patrol, whether it's a combination of major crime. And as I said, they're going door to door, currently doing these video canvasses, looking for businesses or residents or people who might have doorbell cameras or might have cameras in their cars, etc. And then we're collecting that information. So as you can imagine, it's taking hours, days, sometimes weeks to gather that information. And then it takes us actually going through that information as well. So on a major investigation, it could have significant impact on reducing time, or allowing us to actually get to useful evidence much earlier through that process.
And these are active duty officers that are doing the patrol or going door to door?
Yes.
And some of these officers are sometimes for speed enforcement and other active enforcement in our communities.
Yes.
That's taking away time from them.
That's correct.
I understand that obviously this is going to be there's a lot of data collection from this to understand the overall net benefit to the community, and we'll have to tweak it as we go along. But anecdotally, with other communities that have had a longer protracted program such as this, what kind of benefits are they able to pinpoint?
So as I mentioned earlier, just some of the small examples that we have seen or heard of in our consultation with others is just positive feedback that the community has given. I think one of the key things is ensuring that we are sharing the incidents where these cameras are being used and the positive outcomes that are resulting from access to evidence that they're providing. So when we know that it's helping to take a violent offender off the road, or we know it's actually being used to identify someone who's committed a stranger-on-stranger sexual assault, which we've also experienced, or where we know that it's been used to actually find weapons, that's the impact where community is actually recognizing the value to ensuring their public safety.
I know you're repeating yourself, but I think rehearing it only helps to help make the argument. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Michaud?
Thank you. With regards to data from other municipalities, do you have anything, and maybe you said this already, and I apologize if you have, where another municipality, is there a decrease in crime, like robberies and whatnot, where they have cameras? Is there any data to identify that?
Yes, so I did mention to you York Region, for instance, they're expanding their program, but when they first piloted theirs in areas within a kilometer of where their camera locations were, they saw a 6.9% reduction in crime attributed to that.
Over a period of?
I would have to go back and look at the period that they measured that. But then also we have the information, as I mentioned, that came from the UK, where they were able to also show that there was a statistically significant reduction in crime associated to areas where they had cameras located. So those are just two examples. I believe we did share information, a document that had some other examples as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman, question? Go ahead.
Sorry, I should have asked this earlier. What would happen if we didn't approve this? What would the police services do at that moment?
We'll continue to work with the other municipalities that are moving forward with this right now. We have, Waterloo has already approved it there, so we're just currently working on our MOU with the region, as obviously a lot of the infrastructure is regional infrastructure as well, so getting regional support for that too. We are close with signing some other MOUs with some of our other municipalities, with Cambridge, and we're continuing to meet with the townships. Again, our whole thing is to move forward with the municipalities and townships at the pace that they're ready to move forward, and that will be our plan. So if it's not Kitchener, we will add more to Waterloo or Cambridge or wherever it is, but we have what we've purchased through the grant, and we also have a 10-year rollout strategy, expansion strategy. So the plan would be to actually expand and roll out 2026 cameras as well later this year too, so to more locations.
And did one of the townships not vote against this?
One of the townships has decided to stand down and wait to see how it rolls out in other areas.
And can you share with us why they chose to wait?
My understanding is I think there was some misunderstanding after we presented and then when it actually went to vote around what the cameras would be used for. There was conversation or questions raised on whether it could be used for dealing with jaywalking situations, and it is not something to be used for that. So I think there was a bit of trepidation around that, so they wanted to see how it would roll out. So I have to respect their decision at that time, but we hope to approach them again as we roll this out and see cameras installed there as well.
Okay. Can I call for a deferral until the council meeting, given that we have several members at that aren't at the table today?
You certainly could.
Okay. Do I do that now, or should I do it?
Actually, there's no one else in the queue. Did anyone else have any, before we take the deferral motion, anyone else have any comments or concerns they want to share? Comment? Okay, if you would mind holding it till after comments, so folks want to make comments. Councillor Deneau?
Thank you, Chair Davey. I'm going to read a little excerpt from this email I received at some point last year. I'm reaching out to you today regarding the ongoing issues facing Fairview Park Mall. I'd like to ask you if there's anything being done to keep Fairview Park Mall safe for families such as mine. It's gotten to the point now we are deeply concerned to visit due to the seemingly endless number of armed robberies occurring there. Personally, I've been at the mall with my family. We've had to redirect ourselves due to violent altercations within the mall, overdoses within the mall, and even during one robbery. And why I'm reading that is people are not feeling safe at our mall, in our mall, going to the mall. And, you know, we talk about making people feel comfortable at all of our city venues and making sure they're accessible and welcoming. That goes the same to our malls and to our private facilities. And so being that I represent Ward 3, and being that Fairview Park Mall is in my ward, I have great. I think this would really, obviously not immediately, but over the course of time, alleviate people's concerns if if they know that there's opportunities to catch some of these really bad people, and not from our community. They're not, most of them are not from our area, as Ms. Davis said. A lot of them are coming from the GTA, Brampton, Mississauga, Toronto, and so having something to deter them not from doing these smash and grabs, I think is a way to make our community feel safe. I have another part of my ward that's they deal with car thefts on an ongoing basis. While this is not necessarily in their vicinity, my hope that it would actually, if we can continue this program, it would move to that area. And, again, not have police have to deal with their time knocking on doors, where they could, use this as an investigative tool and hopefully solve a crime a heck of a lot quicker than sometimes they are now. And, a lot of the community is always complaining that, well, the police are spending too much money, but at the same time, there are a population who wants more police so they can feel safe. And so we can't have it both ways. We can't not want to spend money on the police services, but at the same time say, well, we can't have that many hires. And so if we can have a way to keep some people safe and feel safe, I think this is a good alternative to start, or a good place to start. And I'm hoping that council wanted to, if the deferral does go through at some point in time, council, we do recognize that we want people to feel safe in our city, and obviously by this email, they're not feeling safe. And so I will support this whenever it comes back to council.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, well, I wanted the deferral, but I would also like to just comment on the fact that in the United States, they have a homicide rate of 5.9% per 100,000 people in the population. And they have 70 million CCTV cameras. 20 million of those are monitored by the police. So like I said, they have the highest homicide rate of all G7 countries. Canada has a homicide rate of 1.91% per 100,000, which is substantially lower. And we already have 12 million CCTV cameras. And the number that are actually operated by the police are, they said, like 20 here and 20 there, like it's really not reportable. So I just want to say, what I'm trying to get at with these numbers is, yeah, you can have millions and millions of cameras if we want to turn this into a surveillance state, but it doesn't mean that our homicide rate is going to necessarily go down. And so I think we have to think very carefully about what we're wishing for here, because once we have 2 cameras, tomorrow we'll have more. And I really think we need to reach out to organizations like the Community Legal Services to get their take on this, because they deal with many people who are falling through the cracks and might be faced with issues with the law. But, I'd love to hear what their opinion about surveillance cameras is. And I also think, let's put more, we've been asking for more foot patrols in the downtown core for a long time through the BIA and certainly through city councilors, and it doesn't happen. It used to be that you had 2 designated officers walking the beat day in and day out, and suddenly that becomes more difficult to do. And I just think cameras are not going to they can be a deterrent until they're not. They're not going to solve the problems that we're being told they're going to solve here. They're not going to stop that crime from happening. They might deter it from happening, but they're not going to stop it from happening. So I would like a deferral, like I said, because I think it's important that all of us be at the table for this vote and this discussion, given the importance that it has for the community and beyond.
Thank you. Councillor Michaud?
Thank you. I'm not sure I'll support a deferral here. We're all here except for 2, so we do have a pretty good, solid council here, because Mr. Singh is online. So anyways, yeah, I don't think I'll support the deferral at this point. I do support cameras, and I do appreciate you coming in and presenting this to us again. I think that this city has grown exponentially. I think and along with that, the problems have grown exponentially. I hear this out in Ward 4 in Dune South all the time. I realize that it's not going to stop the cars from being stolen and all the break-ins from happening, but it's going to deter at some point. I mean, we had a robbery in the liquor store at Pioneer Park Plaza, last year, and it was a brazen middle of the afternoon robbery. These things could go sideways very, very fast. And I think that having cameras where needed, where the police force thinks that they are at the most appropriate places to deter this. Yeah, you're right, Councillor Chapman. It may not solve the problem, but it's just another tool in the toolbox to help correct it. So I do support cameras, and again, I thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Councillor Ioannidis.
Thank you, Chair Davey. First of all, I just want to thank the police force for coming in today and you know, giving us your presentation. That's really appreciative. And by no means, you do a tremendous job in service to our community. One of the things that for this particular issue is where I have a bit of a concern is I would have, and it's no fault to WRPS, but the way the speed camera was rolled out and the way that the public was not involved with it to begin with is my first concern with this. I feel like we should this should be a little bit more, have a little bit more public input with regards to how this is rolled out, because I'm not an expert, and I know the police are an expert, but I'm not sure whether this is something that's going to be accepted in the community or not. And I'm not prepared to, at this time, to make that decision without having that more of an honest discussion with residents, whether they want this or not. And I guess the other issue that I kind of have too is with regards to where does this go from the start of this? I do have a serious concern with the way where this may go. And again, I totally understand the parameters and where this may lie, but I think fundamentally, what I think is the issue here, and this is sort of addressing, not really addressing the issue, but it's a symptom of why we're addressing this. Is I feel like our judicial system basically allows repeat offenders to be let go on a consistent basis, and I think that's where the real issue is. And I don't think it's I think that's something that needs to be addressed. So those are the two reasons why I'm not supportive. Not that I'm not supportive of the staff. I think you guys are amazing, and I do support you 99.9% of the time. But on this one, I just don't feel good about it.
Thank you, Councillor Stretch.
Yes, I'm happy to support Councillor Chapman's motion to defer. You know, I'm leaning towards supporting this, but Councillor Ioannidis made a great point about community input, and I am curious about community input, and perhaps after this meeting and some news cycles, I'll be able to hear more from my constituents and community members to help inform moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Chair Davey. I believe that we do have the ability, after a year, that we'll get a report back to council following the launch of the program, reporting on qualitative and quantitative to both measure success and approval/acceptance in the city of Kitchener. So I think if there are issues, we could deal with those in a year. So am I correct on that, staff?
It is listed as a one-year pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Others have already said it, but what's before us today is not an open-ended commitment. It's a one-year pilot as recommended through staff that would allow the city to enter into that agreement with Waterloo Regional Police Service. And this extension can be considered, and that's a measured and responsible approach. We can't consider this through fear. You know, how this program might get expanded. It's not being expanded tomorrow. This is a slow approach towards adding a extra layer of tool towards public safety. We outline our concerns about privacy or infringement of our personal rights without any immediate evidence of that. It's more consideration through fear. What is before us is actual hard data that we do have worrying trend towards, I think fear of safety amongst our residents, where residents are contacting us, and they're worried with, the way we see the smash and grab in our various different malls. Residents are not safe to go to the mall because they don't know what's going to happen, and that's exacerbated with, social media, where we see not just the problems in the city of Kitchener, but what's happening across the province, and that's a worrying trend. This is a extra tool that's going to allow, the Waterloo Regional Police to be able to properly allocate resources to address those issues across the city, where we can have, we can't prevent the crime, but we can definitely have conviction or investigation far faster with lesser resource. And we talk about having more patrol in our downtown. Well, guess what? That's going to happen in two ways. Either we significantly increase our Waterloo Regional Police Service force with extra officers, and that's going to come with a significant cost to our community, or we look at various different tools that we can manage within our existing resource, and allow a broader spreading across the community to give that face time, to see those patrol cars in our various different neighborhoods, to give that sense of security. If this was a blanket agreement that gave full authority to roll this program out, I would have all the concerns that other members have laid out, but that's not the case. It's a measured approach that will allow us to see over a year's period of time anecdotal evidence, and at the same time, when we have concerns about public feedback, well, this is the opportunity for that public feedback, because it's a small measured allowance that is going to allow our residents in the interim correspond with us. We're going to hear it at the door during election time, and then we can take that full comprehensive data as well as the feedback from the public and deciding, do we really want to broaden this program out in the city of Kitchener? I think this is the right step. This is the right time, especially before the election. I think we should be supporting this unanimously. And I'm not sure that a deferral is really necessary, and I will not be supporting the deferral. One of the councillors, I'm not going to pinpoint by name, but outlined data from the U.S. The society and community, we are not the same. Our approach to public safety and police is not the same. Our perspective of police enforcement in our communities in Canada, the U.S. is not the same. Our gun rights is not the same. So we can't compare those two data sets. I think we are unique, and I think we are safe as a community in the city of Kitchener, but that's not to say that we can't add additional tools that can give us additional assurances of greater safety. That's how I see it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chapman. I have you queued in, but you already commented once. I'm not going around this. Yes, you can ask a quick question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm trying to reflect a bit on why we're even discussing this here, because the police don't come to us to say, should we have more police officers downtown? Should we have more cars? Should we have more this or that or whatever? And we have no say in the police budget. We have no say in what police do. It's a regional responsibility. And yet we're here, we're politicians, we're not police, we're not part of the police force, we don't oversee what you do, and yet we're being asked to put in, to approve surveillance cameras in our city. Why are you not making that decision? And I just don't understand why this is something even, is it about the light posts? Or or what is actually going on here?
Would a member from the police like to respond as to why this is brought before us? Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
we really see this as a partnership with the city. This is not something we want to do independently of the city. And yes, there is an infrastructure piece to this in the fact that we do require access to existing infrastructure, which is those streetlights. So some streetlights may be municipally owned streetlights, and some are regionally owned streetlights, which is why we are making our rounds with all of the different municipalities, townships in the region, because it is a partnership amongst all of us. And with respect to the cameras, it's in addition to supporting, even the 300 plus cameras that the city of Kitchener already has, that police don't have access to, and that when we're required to try and see if there's evidence, it's about a manual process of us reaching out to try and see if there's evidence. So again, it comes back to that timely evidence and information for solving crime and ensuring public safety.
Okay, thank you. Everyone's spoken. I'd just like to make a few comments. First, I want to actually just dovetail on that. I agree. I think the reason this is before us is frankly out of respect and the mutual respect we have with the Waterloo Regional Police, because my understanding is they could have gone ahead with it, certainly on regional roads, whether we weighed in or not. So you're asking us, and I appreciate that. Yeah, this is a tough one for me, I'm not going to lie, because the police have done a fantastic job covering off every one of my concerns or fears. And my concerns and fears have nothing to do with whether it will reduce crime or not, because I'm willing to concede that programs like this certainly will reduce crime going forward. For me, it's a broader question of the surveillance piece. And again, I don't want to malign the police force at all, because they've done everything they can to honor that privacy and try to use it when there's a really dire need to use it. So what's my concern? My concern is the step. This is it is a positive step, but down a potentially very negative road in the future of surveillance. And I guess my biggest concern is, yes, we're covered off today, but I'm not sure who's going to be covering us off tomorrow, because I can see cases in the future where they can say, well, if we only kept the video in perpetuity, we could have solved this crime. Or if we only monitored real time, we could have captured this criminal earlier before they did something. And for me, it's the piecemeal approach that's going to happen in the future. And with the frankly chilling advancements in artificial intelligence that we're seeing, where they can monitor and analyze and pick out, what people are wearing, their demographics, facial recognition, thousands of hours of video in moments. Frankly, it's frightening. And again, to risk repeating myself, this is not at all what the police are proposing, but I do fear that there's a step down that road. So for now, I'm still grappling with this. I will support the deferral at this time. But this is, I don't know, this is a really, and I know there's a million cameras out there, but in my mind, there's a very serious difference between a million cameras out there from private citizens and corporations, from a government entity, for the sole purpose of, frankly, prosecution, right? So anyway, I will support the deferral. If the deferral fails, then I guess we'll see where that goes, but I will take that motion now. Sorry, Madam Clerk, do I have to have a mover before the deferral, or can someone just defer right off the hop? I can't remember. You can move the deferral? Okay, perfect. So, and a recorded vote's been called in the deferral. So this is deferral to council. If you want the deferral to council, you would push the plus button.
Through the chair, Councillor Singh just entered the meeting. He's been having some technical difficulties, so if you wouldn't mind just summarizing what he's voting on for this moment, just to make sure it's clear.
Certainly. And Councillor Singh, are you in favor or against the deferral? Or has he voted? Oh, okay, recorded vote's open. Has everyone voted? The deferral fails, so could I get a mover for the motion then? Moved by Councillor Deneau, and I'm assuming recorded vote as well? Recorded vote in this as well. And the motion, I believe, that does most recent. Okay, motion carries. Very good. Okay, that concludes this item. Thank you, WRPS, for coming in. Appreciate it. The next item is the emergency management plan. And Mr. Bertliff, you have a 5-minute presentation for us. Welcome.
I'm here today to bring forward some recommendations for our annual update to our Emergency Management Program bylaw and our Emergency Management Plan. Now, as I go through the recommendations in the next couple of minutes, the overarching goal here is to improve both our bylaw and our plan, make them more clear, make them more flexible in their implementation, and by doing that, we will strengthen our response capabilities here in the city and improve our overall readiness. So with that being said, I'll go right into our Sorry about that. Okay, every year, as part of our annual mandate and our compliance with the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, we implement a comprehensive emergency management program that consists of the 8 items on the slide in front of you. Now, within these 8 requirements, we have the emergency management plan is foundational. It is Schedule A to our bylaw, and it is our operational guideline for what we do when we activate in response to either an emergency or a business disruption. Now, on the list in front of you, item 9 is highlighted because even though business continuity is not a requirement of our provincial mandate, we here at the city have a very comprehensive business continuity program so that we are preparing for both situations or incidents in our community that provide a threat to our public safety, but business continuity also allows us to focus inwardly on potential business disruptions and how we as a municipality ensure delivery of time-critical services to our community members. So within the requirements of the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act, we have the program bylaw, which empowers all of the things on the slide in front of you. We have the plan as our guideline, and by identifying business continuity, we are bringing that into our emergency management plan with the recommendations I will bring forward. Okay, first we'll start with our bylaw. Now the changes we're looking at making here are fairly subtle. We're clarifying a number of things and removing a couple elements from the bylaw that are no longer required. So under our bylaw section 3, we're changing the titling for our Community Emergency Management Coordinator to be in alignment with the position that I'm currently in. The CEMC is one of the requirements of our bylaw, and every municipality in Ontario must have someone who's designated to maintain the emergency management program. We're also looking at recommending the removal of the alternate CEMC appointments within the bylaw because they're not actually required in the bylaw. We can make those changes administratively through our provincial partners, and it gives us greater flexibility if we want to change our alternates throughout the year without having to come back to council for an amendment to the bylaw. Section 6, we're looking at increasing our clarity by designating that all members of the corporate leadership team collectively form the components of our municipal emergency control group. So those individuals, whether we're dealing with a business disruption or an emergency event, they're the ones who come together as our leadership structure and serve as either an incident management team or an EOC management team. And lastly, for the bylaw component of the recommendations, we're recommending that the previous bylaw be repealed and replaced with the update. So moving from the plan, from the bylaw to the plan itself, we're focusing here in 2 key areas. Overall, we're looking at making recommendations to the plan that improve its readability, provide greater consistency in the language, and clarify some of the pieces by making the language more concise. The key recommendations we're bringing forward today really focus on our concept of operations and complementing the concept of operations within how we designate roles and responsibilities within the incident management system. So in a little bit more detail, Section 3 of the emergency plan really sets the structure that we use to implement and assigns key leadership responsibilities to groups of people. So the recommendations coming forward today is we're amending the policy group which is the position filled by the mayor and the CAO. And we're expanding that policy group definition so that we can include members of council and members of the corporate leadership team, depending upon the emergency situation. We're also making a very conscious decision to separate incident response for business disruptions and emergency response for public safety events. So within the plan, we now have 2 streams that allow us to focus inside and as well as support our response direct to the community. We're also identifying a recommendation that in the event of a large-scale event that impacts both our businesses, our service delivery, and has a public safety impact, that we can default to our EOC management team structure. So we go to an emergency posture. And this also addresses the implementation of the incident management system itself. And our recommendations to Section 7, it really reinforces what we've done in Section 3 under our concept of operations. Again, making sure that we're differentiating between a business disruption and an emergency event, further reinforcing and strengthening some of the key roles and responsibilities, such as a policy group, and further expanding some of the responsibilities under other key responsibilities as contained within our incident management system. And that is an overview of what we're looking at, what we're bringing forth as a recommendation to our bylaw and our plan. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions? Not seeing any questions. It's usually a sign that everything's gone smoothly. Thank you so much for the work. We appreciate it. Could I get a mover for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Ioannidis. Any comments? For sure. Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Chair David, and thank you for bringing this forward. You know, these are situations that we hope we never have to use. Okay, calm down over there. I'm in support of it. But you know, years ago, sitting around conferences at my workplace, and we would ask families if there ever was a pandemic, you know, would you keep your resident here or would you send them home? And the joke was like, oh yeah, pandemic. It was never going to happen. Well, we saw what happened, and I think in a lot of instances we weren't prepared. What we had to do because we never thought it was going to happen. So it's good to have these policies updated and reviewed every once in a while to ensure that we are ready if something bad does happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Deneau. Well said. So the motion has been moved. Those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Davey.
Okay, and the final item for Finance and Corporate Service Committee is the Digital Kitchener 2026 priorities.
Good afternoon, Chair Davey and members of committee. We're here to review the prioritized focus areas for digital initiatives in 2026 that are supported by the Refresh Digital Kitchener strategy and outlined in the staff report. These priority areas were identified by committee feedback in March and also aligned with both our planned and underway work. These projects provide a corporate-wide view of the initiatives that align with Digital Kitchener goals and are expected to contribute to the city's broader digital transformation efforts in 2026. Responsibility for the delivery scope and timing varies by initiative. They will remain with the relevant divisions supported by technology, innovation, and services.
So the first priority area that we're going to focus on is exploring and implementing workflow automation and AI solutions that reduce staff time on manual and repetitive tasks, allowing staff to focus their time on high-value work. Some examples of these are one that we're currently working on, which is the Christkindl vendor market workflow. We're just about finished the first part of that, and that actually saved staff 34 hours of work, and now we have a process that takes 40 minutes and is automated. So looking for more opportunities to do things like that. Another example of one coming up is the sanitary and stormwater staff scheduling. Again, if anybody's ever had to do a schedule in your part-time work, it is a lot of work, so we're going to look for opportunities to help them out with that. The second priority area, next slide, is to evolve the Pitch Kitchener program into the city's front door for civic innovation, providing clear pathways for innovators to engage with city challenges. So we really want to help innovators move forward from idea to impact by offering test sites, staff expertise, data access, building vendor readiness, and safely piloting solutions in real environments. We will partner with our local post-secondary schools to support research and co-design, sector organizations to convene an ecosystem, and startups as a solution partners, and local experts to help us explore emerging technologies. We will bring a report back to council outlining what this evolved program could look like. The next priority is to strengthen partnerships with technology companies, education institutions, and city departments to support co-creation and pilot projects. One example is Project 519, where it's city-scale mapping of Kitchener buildings. And so this is an OVIN-funded collaborative project with a local startup, now full company called MappedIn, where we're going to be using computer visualization to digitize over 18,000 building floor plans so we can create interactive maps for city use by our fire department on scene and in training. We'll continue to look at smart infrastructure and AI asset management. We have a project right now with UW and the Conrad School of Business where we're looking at facility data so that we can explore strategies to work towards proactive maintenance.
Next priority is around exploring and implement AI-based solutions to improve customer service, streamline cumbersome application processes, and accelerate decision-making. A couple examples of areas for this. There's a project underway to use AI analysis, data dashboards, and hardware to help support proactive maintenance and process efficiencies at our aquatics facilities. Look at expanding use of sensors, data, and AI to improve real-time visibility and operational decision-making at areas such as Kitchener Golf, following on the work that was done this past year. And also looking for other opportunities to expand AI-enabled visualization for infrastructure inspections of bridges and roads. Next priority. Following on Councillor Singh's interest, and there was interest from many of the other councillors as well with this, is examine the feasibility expanding the technology loan programs through our city facilities, leveraging retired technology assets, and also considering the role other community service providers could play. So we'll look to work with internal staff and determine the capability and capacity, and then also groups like KPL and other partners that could play in this to really look at how we could get these loan programs and easier access across the city to the residents. Again, on this item, report will come back to committee, outlining our recommendations and options and any potential costs that could come with that. And the last priority we've identified is to partner with local organizations and support them to deliver digital and AI literacy workshops. So this is an expansion and continuation of what we've done in the first round of Digital Kitchener, and then also continue to expand public Wi-Fi into underserved areas of the city. So one of the things we've been looking at is trying to use the marginalization index to identify areas of the city that could benefit from increased public Wi-Fi, as well as also loan programs. And then we'll look to partner with local organizations to deliver digital and AI literacy workshops as well. And that's the priorities we've identified here. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you kindly for your presentation. There are a couple questions, beginning with Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Mr. Murray as well for being open-minded enough to consider the idea about using our retired devices where we're partnering with the working center and making those devices for sale for community members, but maybe reallocating some of them in our community centers or potentially even partnering with with our library programs as well. Beyond that, one of the things for AI is also ensuring that we have a broad lens on the changing landscape. Mr. Murray, are we keeping in tune to all the changing landscape, as well as, I would say, any incubators that are focusing towards AI technology that currently exist within the Waterloo region or through Communitech?
Mr. Murray?
Through the chair, certainly AI is the topic of the day when it comes to technology, and there's not one session or conference that isn't completely loaded with topics on AI. It's one of those things that I think is going to continue to move very quickly, and we're seeing all sorts of different applications and people imagining new ways of using AI. So it is certainly something that we're staying on top of. The discussion among all our regional counterparts is ongoing with how they're using AI, what they're doing with it. It's also discussions at all the associations that we're part of for municipal information, our counterparts within the province as well as across the country. So absolutely, it is, we're doing our best, I'll say, to keep up with it and make sure that we're on top of all the AI developments. It is a very fast-moving field. I can let Ms. Almiral speak to the Communitech. I'm sure it's very much a topic of discussion there as well.
Through the chair, we definitely...
Before you do, Nicole, before you do, so maybe you can add on to the question a little bit, so we don't have to go back and forth. So I'm pretty confident that you guys are staying in touch with Communitech or other organizations that focus on AI or the advocacy or even as incubation. So that's really where I wanted to touch on is, do we have an opportunity to support AI incubation within the community, work along with other cities as well, or even consider a pilot where we're supporting AI incubation that focused on civic engagement or civic governance, or different tools that could be available to us?
Through the chair, yes, we actually have a meeting coming up with Communitech, a brainstorming meeting at the end of this month. We are going to talk about the evolution of Pitch Kitchener, for example, and so how can we make sure that we are working closely with our local tech community and those abroad, across Canada, to focus on civic tech? How can we, instead of, figuring out the solution when we're procuring a new solution, instead we put out challenges. Here's what we would like to do. How can we get there? Instead of saying, we would like to buy X system. There are also opportunities, for example, with the University of Waterloo. And so I sent out an email last week with a very long update of everything that we're working on. And so they're doing some work with the City of Edmonton, for example, through the Future Cities Institute. So your question about working with other municipalities around civic engagement. And so we're looking to see if we can get involved with that around creating AI solutions, but having them in an open source format so that we can share them across the country, like many European cities do.
I'll discuss with this further with you guys, maybe offline, but one thing that I do see is even allocating presence and space within our city hall. I know we have the 10th floor that seems to sit kind of idle. If there's opportunities within space that we can support, like a growing, early nurturing AI incubation. And again, then we're close to home for new emerging tech. And at the same time, we can kind of nudge and encourage them to seek out potential solutions within a local government or governance in general and service delivery. So maybe we can talk more about that, but I think there's opportunities where City of Kitchener, similar to what Communitech was, I think 3 decades or 4 decades ago, being an early supporter and funder, and I think we can maybe play a dynamic role there as well, but we can talk more offline. And thanks again for keeping a broad mind on the loaner program.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that I was able to attend the GeoMate presentation you did with GeoMate and the Ovine project, and it was very impressive to see how that partnership was working. So thank you for that. My question has to do more, though, with customer service, and if we talk about it being inclusive and equitable, how do we accommodate for those people who don't own a computer, maybe computer illiterate, or that are uncomfortable doing online transactions or interaction, even for that matter, with the city? Like, how do we ensure that they're not left behind?
Mr. May?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would say that this is actually a way in which the City of Kitchener is a municipal leader. And so our fundamental approach to customer service and the strategy that was endorsed a number of years ago by City Council says that we will not simply provide services in one channel. So we will not move everything online, whereas some other municipalities have taken that approach. So we are, at the same time as we're building services online, we're creating things like the City Hall Service Center so that people can walk in and get the services that they need. And we're strengthening our corporate contact center for those that would prefer a phone call.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. That actually concludes all of the questions. I actually do not have any questions myself after being with you guys a few times now and asking all the questions of previous committees. I did want to comment that I do think you absolutely nailed the priority list, right? I mean, it's a list that isn't in order of, of what's easiest. It's in order of what's most impactful and what's going to help our corporation the most and our residents the most. I do find interesting too, just the question from Councillor Chapman as well in terms of how folks that perhaps aren't tech literate will figure into this. And it's kind of funny. Just the other day, it's the first time it's happened to me, maybe it's happened to some of you, but I answered the phone and there was a lady on the other end. She was soliciting a survey. She wanted to get some survey results. And I'm talking to her for it wasn't that long, maybe 30, 45 seconds. And it clicked. I'm like, are you an AI? And there's a pause on the other end of the line, and very professionally, yes, I am an AI, but if you'd like, I can connect you to a real person, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what, this is great, let's just continue. So anyway, my point in that is that, that is someone, that's technology interacting with someone who just can speak on a traditional landline telephone. And I think the future is bright in this sense, especially in terms of customer service. Councillor Johnson's queued in the meantime. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Davey. I just want to make a quick comment as well, that I think that this is terrific. And I always think that you're on the right path if you're asking students about AI, because they're right on the cutting edge. And I really appreciate that you're using what we have here in this community. So thank you.
And Councillor Ioannidis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Davey. Yeah, I think Councillor Chair Davey nailed it on. The priorities are bang on. And again, I just want to comment and say that I see the progress that the digital strategy has been moving forward of late in the last year or so. So I'm very happy because I felt like we were stagnant there for a while.
Thank you. And Mayor Rabinovich.
Well, thank you very much. And I do want to again thank staff for all of their work on this. We did have an opportunity to for council to see the preliminary draft of this document some weeks ago. And I think, at that time it was an opportunity to recognize the progress that we've made as a city, but also the vision that's being created here going forward. I think, as I pointed out at the time, in 2019, we had the opportunity to actually have our Digital Kitchener strategy showcased by the federal government as part of Canada's voluntary national review at the UN. Particularly the work that we were doing around digital equity and having the ability to continue building on that and speak to the kinds of things that Councillor Chapman spoke of. But more importantly, how we're going to continue to see technology really work to keep Kitchener at the forefront, but more importantly, continue to deliver strong levels of service to our residents is important. I also just seeing this final draft now, I like how we've also linked it to the strat plan and the SDGs as part of this work going forward. We're just in the midst of working on our own voluntary local review, which I believe will be done later this year for the first time, and hopefully that some of this work will be included as part of that. Thank you.
Excellent. No more comments. Can I get a mover for this item? Moved by Councillor Ioannidis. Those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Good work. Oh, Councillor Singh, I have you queued in. Were you? Oh, sorry. You here to vote? I forgot to get your vote. And you're muted.
I'm having a lot. Maybe I need AI helping me with this one. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure my hand was seen. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. That concludes Finance and Corporate Services Committee. Mr. Mayor, how long till you want to start special counsel? 10 minutes, 5 o'clock?